reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on First Post. Hello and welcome to First Post Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. India signs a $7 billion deal for 97 domestically designed and built Tejas fighter jets, marking the largest order for an indigenous fighter aircraft. Denmark says a professional actor is behind the drones seen flying over multiple airports, calling it a hybrid attack designed to create fear after a similar incident earlier this week forced Copenhagen Airport to shut down. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he is ready to leave office after the war ends and vows to ask Parliament to organize elections if a ceasefire is reached. A Paris court sentences former French President Nicolas Sarkozy to 5 years in prison for criminal conspiracy over claims that late Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi funded his 2007 presidential campaign. And Singapore threatens Meta with fines of over $776,000, setting a deadline to introduce facial recognition and other measures to curb Facebook impersonation scams by the end of this month. Hello and welcome. Our top story is from Malawi. 85-year-old former President Peter Mutharika has made a stunning comeback, winning this month's presidential election and defeating incumbent Lazarus Chakwera. The Election Commission declared Mutharika the winner, announcing he secured more than 56% of the vote, enough to win in the first round. President Chakwera received 33% of the vote.
Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, a Malawi Congress Party, apeza mavoto okwanira 1,765,170, imene inali 33.0%. Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, achipani cha DPP, apeza mavoto okwana 3,035,249, imene inali 56.8%. The assessment of the Commission is that the presidential election was free and fair, and that the results are a true reflection of the people of Malawi, as envisaged under Section 12 of the Constitution of the Republic of Malawi.
Mutharika must be sworn into office within 7 to 30 days of the announcement. Last week's election is seen as a vote against Chakwera's disappointing term. This is as much as a vote for Mutharika amid deepening economic woes. Chakwera conceded defeat well before the official results were announced, saying he is committed to a peaceful transfer of power. Meanwhile, many supporters of Malawi's opposition Democratic Progressive Party celebrated Mutharika's victory, which they see as a beacon of hope.
We have hope that Dad will bring about food security, fertilizer price will decrease and civil servant salaries will improve. Thank you, Dad, for a comeback.
This marks a dramatic return for Mutharika, a former Washington law professor. The 85-year-old previously served as president from 2014 to 2020. In 2019, he was re-elected, but the results were annulled by the courts due to irregularities, leading to a rerun in 2020, which he lost to Chakwera. However, Chakwera's term saw 5 years of economic mismanagement. His tenure was also marred by allegations of corruption, food shortages, and growing national debt. Under him, inflation rose above 27%. Malawi faced critical shortages of fuel and sugar. Now there are consistent long queues at gas stations. Daily food items like corn have become unaffordable for many. Amid these woes, many view Mutharika's first term as a glorious past, with more affordable prices, particularly for fertilizer, essential for a country where most families run small farms.
I have been a vendor selling clothes, but the price increases have rendered me more of a beggar. But with this new leader, I am hopeful that money circulation will improve and prices of commodities will become affordable.
But some experts warn that having spent decades abroad, Mutharika has been distant and reserved and not always known for decisiveness. He has also been no stranger to controversy. Mutharika was accused of attempting to conceal the death of his brother, the former President Bingu wa Mutharika, who died of a heart attack while in office, now allegedly to secure the presidency for himself and to block the vice president from taking over. He faced charges including treason, which were dropped when he took office 2 years later after winning the 2014 elections. His old age cannot be ruled out. As observers say, Mutharika's physical activities may be limited during the term. Despite this, many see his strength in his legacy. And for them, Mutharika's win represents hope amid worsening economic conditions. Mutharika has promised to return to proven leadership in the mostly young nation. Will he be able to deliver on his promises? Now for more on this, we have with us Jack McBrams, a senior journalist and public intellectual. Thank you for being with us. Now, Jack, I'll jump straight in. What factors explain Peter Mutharika's remarkable political comeback at 85? And what does his victory say about the voter sentiment in Malawi right now?
Basically, I think, thank you for having me, but what this vote says is probably, it's a people's decision that reflects on desperation and pragmatism. It's not a vote driven by by kind of a really easy decision to seek one candidate over the other. Because Malawians right now are struggling with runaway inflation. The price of bare commodities such as maize and crippling debt are staggering, and there's high unemployment. So citizens reached for what they hoped might be stability, and this stability came in the form of the former president Peter Mutharika, because he, during his reign, although there were several problems, people still view him as a steady hand. So this is a second chance for him to redeem himself from the challenges that he faced during his first term.
Right, and given Malawi's deep economic struggles, as you've mentioned there, what are realistic expectations for Mutharika's second presidency, and how does his past record compare with the challenges that he faces today?
Malawi is currently at a very national low point. Inflation is eroded wages. Inflation right now is around the regions of 30%, unemployment around 93%. The local currency has lost over the last 5 years, it's lost about 70% of its value. And there's huge crippling debt. So these problems, these challenges are quite prominent. They're present, and I, for one, am not too hopeful of anything that drastic that will really happen over the next 5 years. But what one hopes to will happen is that at least Professor Mutharika should be able to steady the economy, because right now it was in a state of steady decline, and they did not seem to the outgoing government did not seem to have a plan on how to steady the ship. So, like most Malawians, I think what people really need right now is just somebody to steady the ship, and then maybe we can pick up the pieces from there.
Right. And how might Mutharika's age, political legacy, and the past controversies, such as the annulled 2019 election, shape both his leadership style and international perceptions of Malawi's democracy?
I think age will play a very crucial role, because 85 years is not somebody who's really in the best of their mind. They're not really sharp. They're not really thinking on their feet. But I think he will use that to his advantage by trying to rally steady hands around him, because I think he knows his incapabilities. So he should be able to. He is somebody who's really been in government for a long time, and he knows what it takes to run a government. He's been a minister before, and I think what he will do is to bring steady hands around him, people that will guide him along, that will do the lot of the donkey work in managing the country. And we are hopeful that he instead of just picking up people from his tribe and his cronies, it was the problem last time. We are hopeful that this time he will be able to pick up people that have the credibility and the skills to guide this country forward.
Right. Jack, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you so much.
While 85-year-old Mutharika has made a historic comeback in Malawi, another 81-year-old president has launched his re-election bid. Now that's Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power for 4 decades. His candidacy has been cleared for the 2026 elections. And the same goes for his top rival, Bobi Wine. The 43-year-old pop star turned politician is set to challenge President Museveni again. The two rivals last faced off in the 2021 election. Now, after his candidacy was cleared, Wine gave a speech in which he accused Museveni and his allies of ruling Uganda at gunpoint.
For 40 long years, one man and a small group of his relatives and friends have ruled our country on gunpoint. They have looted our nation and turned every institution of government into a tool of oppression.
In his speech, Wine also talked about the 2021 election, in which Wine accused Museveni of ballot stuffing and fraud. At least 54 people were killed while protesting against the outcome, and later Wine was placed under house arrest.
This is not the first time that we stand before you with a dream of a new Uganda. We first made our attempt 5 years ago in 2021. Hundreds of our brothers and sisters were tortured. Many of them were arrested and they are still in prison as we speak right now. Many were killed and many are missing to the present day. And yet, we refuse to give up.
After being cleared to run for the presidency, Wine greeted hundreds of his supporters who took to the streets in Kampala to celebrate. They were carrying Wine's portrait. The rally also saw Wine's supporters clashing with police. The demonstrators defied the Electoral Commission's advice to avoid political gatherings because of security concerns. Police used batons as some of them tried to break through a cordon. Now, reportedly, a dozen people were arrested, including a youth leader from Wine's National Unity Platform party. Museveni's top rival, Wine, has been arrested numerous times. Wine's party has accused Museveni's government of continuous kidnapping, illegal detention and torture of its supporters. Museveni's son and military head Kainerugaba even threatened to behead Wine in January. The president's son also admitted to confining a missing official from Wine's party in his basement. Another top rival of President Museveni, Kizza Besigye, remains in jail in Kampala as he faces a possible death sentence in a treason trial. Now, he has denied any wrongdoing. Last year in November, Besigye was abducted from Kenya and brought to Uganda. He has challenged Museveni in 4 elections without success. Now, President Museveni has been ruling Uganda since 1986, and now he is seeking a record 7th term. A constitutional amendment in 2017 removed the presidential age limit of 75, allowing Museveni to extend his rule. The 81-year-old president has urged his supporters to back his vision for Uganda's future.
So this is the double mission in the coming Kisanja. Continue empowering the middle class, the investors, whether local or from outside, but make sure that the masses are all involved.
Ugandans are set to choose their next president in January next year, and the race is heating up. On one side of the contest is longtime President Museveni, and on the other is his much younger rival Bobi Wine. Now it remains to be seen if Wine will be able to dethrone Museveni in the upcoming elections, or will the Ugandan president seemingly stay in power forever? And moving on, let's turn our attention to Kenya. President William Ruto has called for the restructuring of the UN Security Council. He has demanded at least 2 permanent seats for Africa, with full rights including the power to veto, and 2 additional non-permanent seats. The Kenyan president made his remarks while addressing the UN General Assembly in New York. Ruto raised questions about the relevance of the United Nations today. In his address, Ruto slammed the UN for disregarding the voices of 54 African nations.
You cannot claim to be the United Nations while disregarding the voice of 54 nations. It is not possible. Africa is no longer willing to wait on the margins of global governance while decisions about peace, security, and development are made without our understanding, without our perspectives, and without our voice.
Ruto called Africa's exclusion from the Council unacceptable, unfair, and grossly unjust. He went on to say that Africa's inclusion in the Council is a necessity for the UN's own survival.
The world must understand that reforming the Security Council is not a favor to Africa or to anybody. It is a necessity for the United Nations' own survival. If the United Nations is to remain relevant in this century, it must reflect today's realities, not the post-war power arrangements of 1945.
Ruto pointed out that Africa dominates much of the Security Council's agenda and provides some of the largest peacekeeping contingents. Kenya is itself leading the mission in Haiti to counter armed gangs. Ruto said that while Africa bears the heaviest costs of instability, it remains the only continent without a permanent seat at the main table. The power rests with the 5 permanent members of the UNSC, and they are China, France, Russia, the UK, and the US. The other 10 are non-permanent members that are elected for 2 years terms by the General Assembly. The current non-permanent members are Algeria, Denmark, Greece, Guyana, Pakistan, Panama, the Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and Somalia. Ruto's demands highlight a long-standing concern of the world's second-largest continent, that's representation at the global stage and the power to make and influence decisions affecting Africa. While Ruto voiced the concerns of the continent at the UNGA stage, on the sidelines of it, he was busy looking into the issues facing his own country, with trade with the US topping the list of his concerns. Ruto met with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in New York. The president took to X to share the details of the meeting. In his post, Kenya's President Ruto said that the two sides had agreed to strengthen relations by expanding trade, concluding a trade agreement by the end of the year, boosting US investment in Kenya, and deepening security cooperation, particularly in counter-terrorism. Ruto also said that he had a positive discussion with Rubio on the African Growth and Opportunity Act. It is a 25-year-old initiative that grants qualifying African nations duty-free access to the US market. The act is due to expire this month, and President Trump's tariff-driven policy makes the renewal of this act nothing short of an uphill task. In April, Trump had imposed a 10% tariff on Kenyan goods. While international pressure is growing, so are the domestic troubles for President Ruto. Kenyans are upset with the Ruto administration over the state of the economy, as well as police brutality and suppression of dissent. Now, it remains to be seen if Ruto's visit to the US can do any good for Kenya, and most importantly, for the president himself. And our last story is from the Democratic Republic of Congo. The world's largest cobalt producer has sent a strong message to foreign nations involved in its minerals sector. The DRC says it won't allow China or any other foreign power to control its decisions. Speaking on the sidelines of a seminar in New York, he confirmed that the DRC will stick to its recently announced cobalt export quota system, with any revisions possible only in the long term if the government deems them necessary. The DRC is the world's largest cobalt supplier, providing around 70% of global demand last year. Cobalt is a critical material for electric vehicle batteries and other high-tech applications. In February, the DRC imposed a complete export ban on cobalt to control supply and to influence global prices. But from next month, the ban will be replaced with a quota system. Now, under the new quota system, the DRC will allow limited cobalt exports. For the rest of the year, shipments will be capped at 18,125 tons. In 2026 and 2027, the annual quota will rise to 96,600 tons. And this move replaces the earlier export ban and gives the DRC more control over global cobalt supplies. The government says the move is meant to manage supply and to influence prices without halting exports entirely. It also gives the DRC more control over the global cobalt market. And since many mines are foreign-owned, there is tension over how much influence outside companies should have. Now, the firm with the largest stake in the DRC's cobalt sector is a Chinese company, CMOC, and it has objected. The firm says that the quota is smaller than its production capacity and limits its sales. But the DRC maintains that a country that supplies 70% of the world's cobalt has to have a say in prices. The mining minister also emphasized that the government wants more local processing of cobalt, looking to increase the value of its exports and to ensure greater benefits for the country. Just days ago, during negotiations with the United States, President Felix Tshisekedi warned that the DRC will not auction its mineral wealth. This after Washington brokered a peace deal between the DRC and Rwanda, which included economic and mineral cooperation. The agreement outlines regional economic cooperation in energy, infrastructure, and critical minerals. Now, this shows the DRC is taking a firm stand to protect sovereign control over its minerals sector, ensuring that decisions on exports and investments benefit the country first. And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.